And now we come to our first sports tour of the day with this, the Kawasaki ZZ-R 1200. Now if this bike looks strangely familiar to some of you, don't be worried about it. It's because this is an adapted, breathed upon and tweaked version of Kawasaki's ZZ-R 1100, the legendary top speed king that ruled the high speed charts for all of 6 years until Honda's Blackbird came along to snatch the crown. Now then, the ZZ-R 11 was a very fast motorcycle, something that struck fear, awe and trepidation into the hearts of all who came across it, and anybody who had bikes in their life and a pulse in their body wanted to go on one.
It has to be said, the ZZ-R 1200 will never inherit the 1100's mantle. Where the 1100's bulbous ugliness was perfectly acceptable in the light of its relative performance merits, the ZZ-R 1200 is, by and large, simply unattractive and overweight. Time, fashion and super fast motorcycles have moved on, and the ZZ-R 12 just ain't in the in crowd anymore. But then that's not what Kawasaki wanted it to do. After all, they're already packing the best hyperbike on the market in their lineup with the latest incarnation of the ZX-12, so launching another model to compete against it could hardly be a smart move. Nope, the ZZ-R 1200's remit is a very different one.
Instead of heading out there to be a cutting-edge hyperblaster, the ZZ-R 1200 is a far more all-rounded, balanced, real-world alternative that just happens to have as an added bonus one serious rush of speed, if that happens to be your drug of choice. Coming to the practicalities of the thing, let's start with the comfort, because this seat is palatial. It will even make the VFR's perch feel positively anorexic by comparison. Your pillion perch really isn't far off being as good as the rider's side either. And as well as that, there's this huge fairing up here which cocoons you from head to toe in a lovely bubble of peaceful, still air.
Best of all though, there's the motor. Against the higher booster or a ZX-12 it may feel a bit slow, and true, being carbureted it does spin up with a little less urgency than more modern sporting beasts. But get on the gas and you will be left in no doubt that this is still one brutally fast piece of machinery. Chassis and suspension have been worked over too from the original ZZ-R, with geometry tweaks throughout to speed up the steering and an all-over helping of extra chassis stiffness.
The ZZ-R 1200 suspension works very well within the limits of the bike, i.e. good fast cruising, open roads. You can even do some scratching, get a bit energetic in the tight stuff if that's what you want to do. However, push on too hard, get into real sports bike mode, and the budget nature of this suspension will start to show itself up as the whole plot becomes a little unglued, bounces around, you don't get so much feedback to get on in confidence. But really, if you want to ride that hard, may I suggest you look elsewhere for your jollies. Otherwise, ZZ-R 1200 holds its own very well indeed.
Obviously it's not all perfect. Like I said earlier, it is an ugly motorcycle, and despite all the tweaks and fiddles, it will take more than a redesigned fairing and a big bore to convince anyone that this is much more than a dusted off and dressed up ZZ-R 1100.
And with its makeup so firmly rooted in the past, there's no surprises to find a host of old school touches on the ZZ-R 1200. For example, there are those great big analogue clocks, there are mirrors the size of dinner plates, and for anyone who's been riding fuel injected bikes recently, best get used to the fact there's a fuel tap on this one and it's running carbs. Therefore, soon as you run out, you better get quick on the draw with getting to that tap before you stutter to a halt. So fashion and the complexities of a modern age have largely passed the Big Z by, but this is no bad thing, because beneath all that, this is a very good, very fast, comfortable mile muncher that is actually quite hard to beat. So how does it stack up in the scores?
Performance, 8 out of 10. You've got a lot of bang for your buck with this motorcycle. Style, 5 out of 10. She's no beauty queen, and that's for sure. Comfort, 9 out of 10. You really could cross continents in a day, no worries on one of these 2-up or solo. Reliability, 6 out of 10. Given that it comes from the ZZ-R 1100, the basis of this bike is actually quite old. And if it's anything like the 1100 was, then things like chains, tyres, cush drives and head bearings are all in for a rough ride. Value for money, 8 out of 10. If fashion isn't your thing but big miles are, and you still want some fun to be had while you're at it, then this really could be money well spent.